Right from the opening, notice how both sides are focused on those letters of support. These aren't just sentimental notes, they're mitigating evidence. In court, character letters from family, pastors, and employers can weigh heavily during sentencing. But remember, mitigation doesn't erase accountability. Question for the audience. Should a person's good history reduce punishment if the outcome was devastating?
I have received from the state a couple of notebooks with letters of support and information. I have reviewed those. Have you had an opportunity to do that as well?
I have not, but we have no objection.
Okay, thank you.
I only want to confirm that the letters from my client's wife and children and his pastor, his church, and other church members were included in the PSI. They were included in my copy. I just want to make sure.
Yes.
And I saw those in the video.
They were, and I've reviewed those as well.
Thank you.
Okay.
Obviously, we're here for the sentencing of Mr. Gomez on these very serious charges. I want to point out some contextual evidence that came out through the investigation by the District Attorney's Office and by our office. But I want to be clear, this is not an attempt to excuse his behavior. It's not intended to do anything other than give the court some context that led to this particular tragedy. This entire thing began with a work-related gathering. Mr. Gomez had been in Beaumont only about a month, working for one of the construction pipeline companies, unfamiliar with the area. There was an invitation to go to these different restaurants and places by his supervisors. He felt compelled to go. The report by DPS highlights they spoke to several witnesses who were co-workers who said this was kind of an after-work gathering where they all went. Of course, once the companies realized the magnitude of what had happened, next slide please, they quit cooperating. Basically, no one would talk to DPS, no one would talk to our investigators. They kind of circled the wagons. I think that lends some credence to the fact that this was something that the companies did encourage the employees to do. The entire matter was investigated by the Texas Alcohol and Beverage Commission. And the first place they went, go back please, was Darla's Taqueria here in town. And from the TABC report, which is introduced into evidence as part of the plea, next slide, they made a determination that Darla's Taqueria had grossly overserved Mr. Gomez, and that it was contrary to basically any public sense of decency. Next slide. The next place they went for the TABC report was Temptations Cabaret. The report details, next slide, the enormous number of drinks he was served, including one where he was served 5 shots at the table and seen to fall down by the waitress, and she still served the drinks at the table. They determined that they clearly overserved an intoxicated person. The big question here that I had when we began this case is, how did he end up going on the southbound on the northbound lane of 69? And he was staying at the time at the AAA RV Park, which is located down here on, I believe it's Old Port Arthur Road. And his route of travel would have taken him from Temptations Cabaret down through that, I believe exiting and going down Old Port Isabella Road. Next slide. Obviously he missed that exit and he came down, and there's another way that you can go down 69 southbound to likewise get back to the RV park, and that was his plan at the time. Next slide. The problem is, and soon after we looked at this and investigated it, and they had the GPS data from his phone, he exited, he turned down Martin Luther King, and he came to an area where he would have gotten on the ramp to go up to the southbound lanes of 69. But, next slide, there was this side. One more slide closer. Right there on the ramp, it said road closed. Now, I believe what they meant to say was lane closed, and they wanted you to go around that and get on 69. But when he was confronted with this road closed sign, he took a left, which is what the detour sign seemed to indicate, went down, and then got on the exit ramp for the northbound headed south. And it's common here, I've seen it in several places where they have divided what were one-way service roads into two ways, and he assumed that was what happened. Of course, that led him on to the southbound, going southbound and northbound. That's how he got there. Next one. South Northbound is I want to congratulate the probation department here in Jefferson County. They did an incredible, very thorough, and I think very even-handed and fair pre-sentence report. But a little bit about who Salvador Gomez is that came out through the report. Next slide. He was a military veteran. He was served in the United States Marine Corps, was honorably discharged. Next slide. He's always worked. He graduated high school in '91. He attended the police academy in 1992. He was a deputy sheriff in Cameron County until he had an off-the-job injury where part of one of his fingers was amputated and he could no longer continue as a deputy sheriff. At the time of this, he was employed by ExxonMobil as a piping superintendent. He's been confined to a wheelchair since this incident. He's had tremendous injuries. He's going to suffer from those injuries probably for the rest of his life. Next slide. And as the PSI points out, that something we would ask the court to consider is that does reflect some personal consequence for his actions in this particular case. The PSI and everything we see indicates that he's a very stable, loving father and husband. He's been married since 2001 to the same woman. He has 4 children. He active in his church. There were several letters of support from his pastor and from other members of the congregation included in the PSI. Next one. The probation officer noted that he thinks of the victims daily. He knows the names and has a personal connection because one of them is in very close age to his own children and another shares the same birthday as his daughter. Those are things we'd like the court to consider from the PSI, and we'll have a closing argument later. Thank you.
Today calls Christopher Stack.
Good morning, sir. If you please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're going to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you, sir. You can have a seat.
You married?
I was.
When were you married?
About 1.5 years ago.
And here's a crucial legal point. If investigators found bars overserved a visibly intoxicated person, that can trigger civil liability, meaning lawsuits against the establishments are possible, separate from the criminal case. Still, overserving doesn't absolve the defendant. At the end of the night, he turned the key, he drove. A tragedy built on choices, not one, but many.
When was the last time that you heard from her?
I believe I fell asleep around probably 11 or 12.
And had she texted you at that point?
Yes, sir. The last text, I believe, was that she was coming home to see me soon and that she loved me.
In the early morning, June 14th of last year, did you realize something was wrong?
Yeah, I woke up and it was probably, I want to say 1:30 or so. I can't remember the timestamps, but I woke up and she hadn't texted for a while. I had a location on my phone.
And so at that point when you woke up, did you expect her to have been home by then?
Yes, sir.
Was that unusual for her to have been out that late with her friends?
Never.
You stated you could follow her location on your phone. Were you able to do that?
I was, but she had her in front of the prison or the jail for like an hour or so when I looked and I saw that. Maybe it was an hour, I can't remember for sure, but
It wasn't moving, was it?
it wasn't moving.
So what did you do?
I immediately threw clothes on and got on the road
And you're driving from where?
from Beaumont.
As you got close, did you realize something bad had happened?
Yeah, so when I turned that curve going on 69, I saw a lot of
You saw lights?
yeah, I saw the lights.
Chris, when you pulled up, Could you tell there had been a car crash?
I knew there was something wrong.
Can you tell Judge what you did see when you pulled up?
I couldn't see much because it was the median was in the way, but I turned around the underpass and I saw there was a cop that stopped me. I guess he was directing traffic. And I asked him, I said, "Has there been a wreck?" And he said, "Yeah." I said, "My wife, her location was right there." And so he let me through. I drove through and I was stopped about probably 100 yards from the spot of the accident. And I couldn't remember exactly what was asked or what I said, but they basically told me, I showed them my phone, I showed them the location, and they couldn't even tell who it was or who. Any kind of healing can be done from just on my end and from the 1,000 lives that were affected by this senseless tragedy.
Thank you, Chris. I'll pass it to Sharon.
Any questions? Thank you.
Back in June of 2024, were you engaged to be married?
Yes, sir, I was.
And who are you engaged to be married to?
Camille Marty.
And how did you meet Camille?
I met Camille right during COVID at a church conference in Sebastopol, Mississippi. She was from North Carolina. I was from Beaumont, Texas, so it was a pretty unlikely meetup, in the middle of nowhere, Sebastopol, Mississippi.
And I take it y'all hit it off.
We did. It's a hilarious story that I was in the altar in the worship service and she was in the altar in the worship service and we saw each other in the altar and we probably made eye contact 20 times in the worship service in the altar. And after service, I made sure to say hi to her.
And at what point did y'all become engaged and married?
We got engaged in March of 2024.
And you are friends with Christopher Stacks, correct?
Yes, sir.
And y'all had this friendship, and both were starting your families together at the same time. Is that correct?
Yes.
How did you find out that Camille had been killed?
I was asleep, and my dad busted into my room, and it was about 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. And I remember waking up, and he just said, "The girls got in an accident." And my first thought was that they had to be okay. There was no way something like that could happen. And I immediately asked, "Are they okay? What hospital are they at? What ER are they in?" And all my dad could say was, "They didn't make it." And all I could say was no. Just no. And I jumped out of bed and I still just couldn't believe it. There's no way. And I got dressed as fast as I could and I ran downstairs and I didn't know what I could do. I thought there was something maybe I could do. And my dad just told me, he said, Bubba, there's nothing you can do. There's nowhere you can go. Can't do anything.
And since this has happened, how's it affected you, Boston?
I had begun building my life with Camille and my life plans and our life.
Brace yourself. The tone is about to change. Up until now, the defense has focused on context. Overserving, confusion on the roadway, his military past, character support. But now, the human cost steps into the room. We're transitioning from explanation to impact.
Life that we were building together, and we had just begun to build together, was just taking off. And the one thing that I thought I had done right in my life was deciding to marry Camille. And with that gone, I feel so lost in like this life that I was supposed to have, which has been taken away from me.
I'm asking the same question that I asked Chris. What do you want to see happen here today?
Full sentencing underneath the law, that's possible.
And that's actually not enough, is it? Nothing
sir.
can
Yes,
fix
sir,
it.
I don't believe it is.
I understand. Thank you, Mr. Carter. I'll pass it to you.
No question.
Thank you. Mr. Gomez, please, the best you can, raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're going to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you, sir. Just be sure and speak loudly and clearly into that microphone so everyone can hear you.
Yes.
What have you been spending your time in jail doing?
But I've been trying to do whatever I can to get back physically, doing what I've done, like basically walking, a little bit of therapy. I mean, we don't have no therapy or nothing. But like out there in the civilian world, so I just do whatever I can.
Have you been talking to other prisoners?
Talking to other prisoners. I've been mentoring some prisoners there since I'm one of the oldest in my dorm. One of the few older people there in my dorm. So I've been mentoring some younger guys in there, helping them out with their troubles in life and stuff like that.
Did you, were you a member of a church before?
Yes, sir, I was. Solid Rock Church.
How long had you and your family been attending the church?
We've been going there for about 20 years.
So in other words, your faith wasn't a jailhouse conversion.
No, sir, it wasn't.
I want you to explain to the judge, why did you decide to plead guilty?
I decided to plead guilty because of my drinking that night. I caused this accident. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I went down the wrong way, caused this tragedy. I can't say. I mean, I can't say much about it. I mean, I did it. I caused this accident. Caused the hurt to the families that are here. There's no other. I mean, I can't say nothing else. I was in the wrong. My drinking caused this. That's pretty much why.
You talked to me about things that you would hope to do with this tragedy. What are some of them?
Some of the things that I want to do is bring awareness, more awareness to the drinking and driving. Bring it out there, go to maybe high schools or something before they graduate. Talk to them, maybe partner with a MAD organization.
You've never been convicted of a felony anywhere, correct?
That is correct.
So you technically qualify for probation. Are you asking this court for probation?
No, sir, I'm not. I don't think it's appropriate. I can't come up with a proper thing to say, but what I've said.
Why it's so dangerous.
Yes, sir.
So you've been through this before. How old are your children?
27, 21, 20, and 18.
And if God forbid they were taken from you because of someone drunk, intoxicated driving, what would you be asking the judge to do?
I will let the justice system look at all the facts and the judge. Not a whole lot.
And then after that, you decided to get in your truck and drive 20, 30 miles back to where you live off of Westport off the road. Correct?
Yes, sir.
And your evening started at the Taqueria in Port Arthur,
Yes, sir.
where you drank 8, 9 beers between 5:30 and 9:30. Is that accurate?
Yes, sir, I think so.
And you left the city of Port Arthur after having had 8 or 9 beers and drove the 30 minutes or so to a strip club in Beaumont. Is that accurate?
Yes, sir.
And for several more hours, you continued to drink. You took shots and you drank beers.
Yes, sir.
And then after about 12:30, 12:45 in the morning, you got in your truck to drive back to West Port Arthur Road.
Yes, sir.
And you're asking this court to give you some mercy.
But this court knows that our criminal justice system requires that we look at more factors than that. Because our criminal justice system is about more than punishment. He's going to prison. That's what's going to happen. It's what has to happen. But he does want to try to do something with this. And as became clear, and it's clear in the PSI, religion has been a big part of his life, and his children's lives, and his family's life. He didn't ask the Eisenhower Marti family for forgiveness because he knows he can't forgive himself. And he knows there'll be other things that he'll have to answer for in the future. I wanted the court to be aware of some of the factors that led to this. Not because they excuse in any way Mr. Gomez's behavior, nor does he want the court to think excuses his behavior. But to ignore those factors in doing this, two establishments that grossly overserved an intoxicated person, violating the law, violating their commitment to their patrons and to the citizens of Jefferson County, that has to be considered. The ongoing, never-ending, incredibly confusing signage construction that doesn't seem to make any progress only continues to put people. Those are things that could cause not simply an intoxicated person, but any of us to end up in that situation going the wrong way. To ignore those factors, excuses, endorses, and will not change anything about those things that are impacting the community. We trust that this court is going to impose a sentence that's fair and just for both parties. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Nichols?
Thank you, Your Honor. Judge, you heard how these crimes have ripped two young families apart, ripped a community apart. And yes, as devastated Mr. Gomez's family as well. But they get to see him. They get to visit him. And at some point, he may be released. I'll submit to the court the physical evidence in this case would have been horrendous. And I'm glad we did not have to have the family sit through that. But the magnitude of this crimes, and the loss they caused, I think, calls for the maximum sentence allowable under law, Your Honor. Each case is punishable by 2 to 20 years. Under the provisions of Penal Code Section 303B1A, the court can run those consecutively, stacked on top of each other. That is what I'm asking the court to do. 2 maximum sentences with deadly weapon findings stacked on top of each other, along with a maximum sentence in his third case the felony DWI, which doesn't really affect anything at the end of the day. 20 plus 20 is 40, and that's really not enough, but that is the maximum allowed under law, and that's what I'm asking you to do on behalf of the Marty family, the Eisenhower family, Christopher Staggs, Boston Carr, and their entire faith community. One reason all these people, including the Gomez family, are here in this courtroom today is because of what he did, what he chose to do. And it is a tragedy up and down. And so I'm asking you to protect the citizens of Jefferson County from any chance that this can ever happen again from Mr. Gomez. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. First, I really do want to thank everybody for being here.
Up next, the moment many courts consider the most revealing. The defendant speaks. This isn't testimony for innocence. This is accountability, remorse, and reflection under oath. Watch closely for ownership of actions, emotional depth, and one keyword judges listen for: responsibility.
We don't have full courtrooms like this. Just as both of the attorneys said, these are some of the most difficult cases that any judge has to deal with for many reasons, obviously. Mr. Gomez, had you been in, well, I'm not sure that it would matter, but had you been in here and this was your first DWI, there might be some sense of what your attorney was asking for me, which is true. I mean, I have to detach myself from the emotional part, which is, it's impossible, but it's required, and I do the best I can to do that. And there are things about you and your life in the past that are good. There are things that the 3 prior DWIs should have taught you. Your age, you're 52 now, 53 now. The 3 DWIs previously, even though they're older, and your age, it's not the establishment's fault. Did they violate the law? Absolutely. You're a grown man. Got into a vehicle, and I think it was underrepresented by Mr. Nichols from what I read, that there was at least 12 beers at the first place. And then you drive. I guess we're lucky in some ways you didn't get whatever family was on the road going that direction. And then go falling over yourself at 50-something years old. You know at that point, you know you shouldn't be in a vehicle. You know from your history, you know from your age, you know probably from telling your own children not to drink and drive and trying to probably instill that in them. And you did it. And you did this. 24 DCCR 1651. I'm going to find you entered your plea of guilty freely and voluntarily, find sufficient evidence to find you guilty, and at this time find you guilty of intoxication manslaughter with a vehicle. I'm going to sentence you to a term of 20 years in the institutional division of the Texas Department of Corrections. There will be an affirmative finding of a deadly weapon. I am basing that on all of the information that's presented in both the pre-sentence report, the attached reports from the officers, in addition to the letters from Mr. Staggs, who unfortunately had to drive up and see this in person, from what they had to use to identify these 2 precious young lives, that there's no way that there is any doubt that you used your vehicle in a manner capable of causing death, and that you in fact did that. In cause number 24 DCCR 1652, I'm also going to find sufficient evidence to find you guilty, and at this time find you guilty of intoxication manslaughter with a vehicle. Sentence you to a term of 20 years. There will also be a deadly finding in that case based on the same information and evidence that I used in the previous one. That sentence will run consecutively to cause number 24 DCCR 1651. In cause number 24 DCCR 1653, I'm also going to find that you entered your plea of guilty freely and voluntarily, find sufficient evidence to find you guilty, and at this time find you guilty of driving while intoxicated, third or more. find those prior offenses true, sentence you to a term of 10 years in the institutional division of the Texas Department of Corrections. That will run concurrently with the other 2 sentences. You will receive credit on these sentences for any time that you've been in custody that the law gives you the right to receive. You will be handed in a few minutes the trial court certification that shows that there were not agreements in this case. You do have some rights to appeal. You can talk to your attorney about that. I'm also going to hand you a written admonishment regarding your ineligibility to possess a firearm or ammunition. Because of the judgments entered against you, you're ineligible under Texas law to possess a firearm or ammunition. Firearm is a legal term. You should read that document that I provide you. If you have questions about that, you can also talk to Mr. Young about that. Mr. Young made a great argument on your behalf, but ultimately there's no getting past your history, your age, and the consequences of what those choices were. I'm sorry to your family for what you did to them. I'm more sorry to the other families for what you did to them as well. Mr. Nichols, is there a
Yes,
victim impact statement?
There will be.
Okay. We'll go off the record for this.
You can feel the remorse, but remorse doesn't undo death. And legally, this is where the conflict sharpens. We have a man with no felony history, a veteran, a father, but also a man with 3 prior DWIs. Remorse meets pattern. Compassion meets accountability. And sentencing becomes a battle between who he W.